Welcome to True to Blueprint, everybody. Today, I'm going to talk about how hockey got where it is today and its identity crisis. A lot of what Shanahan says when he says, fix the hockey, everything else will take care of itself. Not just talking about fixing this team, he's talking about fixing hockey. And with metrics and analytics, you can't hide if you're not a real great hockey player, no matter what they're voting or what everybody's paying you or what, the people who aren't on your team have agreed to say about you to keep your salary up. Eric Carlson. Sorry. No, I'm really not. Hockey started out trying to rebel. Hockey was a rebellion. At first against not having a full-time military and industrialization, giving guys a lot more time on their hands. And so in the beginning, everybody played hockey throughout Ontario, I think throughout Michigan, probably throughout most of the North. And then the pro hockey had to form as a rebellion against the rich people who believed if you got paid, winning would become important. Now, what was important to those rich people?
Winning versus sportsmanship.
Well, I know, but what was important to those rich people?
What was important to those rich people was to dance for us.
No. Yeah, I know, but that's all. They're saying
Right.
Keep busy, you sons of bitches, you big, tough people who we used to send to kill people. Just, now be entertaining to us, but don't threaten us. Don't scare us. Within 50 years, hockey had become one of the most, it was basically 6 hockey gangs. And at the end of the original 6. But let's go back to how we got started pro.
It's a gang.
Right. The rich people threw somebody important out of hockey who would then go on to form the first national...
John Gibson.
Right, John Gibson. And his team played in formerly Berlin, now Kitchener. And what were they given? Who gave them? What
The
happened?
mayor of Berlin, Ontario, gave each of the players a $10 gold coin for winning a key game. And then when I think it was
The mayor.
Ontario Hockey Association found out about it, they suspended all of the players because nobody was allowed to make any money at that time. It was all amateur.
Wow, what'd they give you if you win? Because that's also discouraged. So they threw Gibson out. He went to Detroit. He went to school in Detroit and became a
Dentist.
A dentist. Okay.
But he played hockey while he was in school.
Never a bad second job for a hockey player.
Right. No
Okay.
kidding. And one of the games that they played was in Houghton, Michigan, in the Upper Peninsula, and he liked it up there, so he located his practice there when he
That is
graduated.
up there, man.
Right.
I'm sure somebody in Thunder Bay is laughing at me saying that, but that is up there. Okay, so then he decides it's going to be a pro league, and they start to form. But then, right away, there's problems because there's one guy who seems to want to do things his way. Now, today, I changed from thinking this is the old standard bad Leafs management getting Toronto in all kinds of trouble. No, I'm thinking Eddie Livingstone, and I have to read more. He might have been the kind of guy that, would be a combination of Brendan Shanahan and Kyle. We're doing it our way. No, we don't care what you think. No, there is no room for your opinion. No, this is the way it has to be. And apparently they just loved him for that. Is that not correct?
They loved it. Oh, yeah, so you're being a little
The whole
sarcastic.
National Hockey Association just stood up and did what? Pushed him off a cliff?
Well,
Over
they
Niagara
probably would
Falls?
have if they could.
Well,
But
they should have taken him
They
to
all
Niagara.
met at a secret location without him, and they all resigned.
Windsor Hotel
Hotel.
in Montreal.
So that was in October that happened. And then a couple of weeks later, in November, they got back together without him again, and that's when they organized a new league.
So they just disbanded the league, then rebanded a new league, leaving Eddie.
Leaving him out,
Out.
so that his hockey team
Okay,
would apply.
and then he's basically never heard from again.
Oh, no, he took them to court and he bothered them for 10 years.
He bothered them for 10 years.
Through the courts.
So
So he
how-
ended up getting a small amount of money out of it, but never really anything else.
So then they're playing hockey in Toronto. Do you have any idea how that came about after that? I know at some point Conn Smythe gets the team. Did he buy the team from Livingstone, or did he come in and start a
I
new
don't think
one?
I'm that far
Yeah,
into it. I
okay.
don't have the
Anybody who
notes for
can
that
enlighten
yet.
me, now look what
Yeah.
I've done.
You can add
Raised
that.
mystery.
Add some information.
Please,
under the
anything
video.
you want to add, including disagreeing with certain takes I have or Mary has, although Mary is not usually taking anything that I didn't give her to take. I mean, her information is around. I'm just saying she's not going to be controversial, most likely.
No, I won't. And if anything, I'm getting information from books. And by the way, the information for this video is from a book called The First Season, 1917-18. If anybody's interested in reading it.
Oh, well, no wonder we don't know what happened next. So, okay. And at this time, hockey is already rebelling. It's already saying the idea of amateur sports, which in Canada is still really important. Okay? There's no, like, semi-pro baseball leagues. Excuse me, I do not know what that was.
They cannot see the no signs.
I know they can't. They think I'm crazy. Woo! Anyway, and hockey has, you know, the Leafs always find a way to be central to this rebellion. They're always doing something that nobody else is doing, including what I found out is that Conn Smythe is, like, as late as his 60s, employing some of the players at his gravel pit so that they, you know, he can pay them more money.
Oh.
Apparently they got more than, like, most gravel pit people would have gotten, and that way he didn't wreck the curve, but
He
kept
was
them
doing
very
it
loyal.
the way they did it at the beginning.
Well,
you got
right.
a small amount per year as a hockey player, and then you got another paycheck working at the gravel pit.
Right, exactly. And I think in some ways that still in a way exists in Toronto in an unofficial way, because there's so much in Toronto that the Leafs are part of. But that brings up something else. You were telling me about salaries, about how they would buy players and then they would win and they'd go out of business.
Right. Because they wanted to
Okay.
win the Stanley Cup.
So the whole idea of stop me before I pay again is not a new idea.
Not at all.
Wow. Well, it's a miracle hockey made it through. Between World War I, the Spanish flu, Lester Patrick coming into goal. I still think that's so bizarre. That's my favorite old thing. Hockey somehow makes it. And during the Second World War, they actually, the original 6 teams are the bread and butter of the league. They are paying all the bills. They are spreading the word about the sport. And how they're doing this is, even the stars there are, they always talk about their line, okay? They never talk about them individually without talking about their line or their defense pairing. It's very, very interesting. And we'll get back to later how Scotty Bowman taught Brendan Shanahan something about doing things that way. And the original 6, they would, I heard Eddie, yeah, I got 20 players' names in my head of people who told me, yeah, I saw that guy and I want to go over and punch him, or I wouldn't eat in a restaurant, or that guy used that bathroom, I'm not using it. I mean, that's how much there is. They avoid each other on the train, taking the same trains. There's only so many trains. And this is the kind of dedication these guys had. They really did. So that they kind of, I think, you know, I talked to Ted Lindsay a lot about him trying to form a players association in 1957 and the 10 years that followed, and him being traded and all that. And he, as he says, he would do it again today if the situation existed. He didn't do it to bug the owners. He did it to protect the players. And I don't think that that's currently the idea behind the Players Association. But they could have acted faster. But everybody kind of, I mean, you groove on that. I know. I was going broke being the person having the most fun every, you know, oh, you got to be here. Mary and Dawn got to be there. It's not a party without Mary and Dawn. All of that is all great, and it makes you real popular. It even makes fun popular among people who see it. But it's not in any way going to grow. And the guys who own these teams, they weren't part of these clubs. They wanted to grow. And as they wanted to grow, around that same time in the mid-60s, Bobby Hull accidentally invents a curved stick. I understand Stan McKee's stick had cracked, creating a curve, and Bobby was goofing around with it and realized that he was getting some crazy action on the puck, including lift. He already had a wicked hard shot, but what point would there be in winding up for a shot? Along the ice is along the ice, or, so this became the beginning of the stick not just being used to pass it to each other, to start plays, to backhand, forehand. Gordie Howe made a career on the backhand. And the curved stick suddenly makes the stick specifically about scoring. Specifically about scoring. Now, when this becomes highly popular, I mean, it is crazy how popular it gets. Because, I mean, it's dramatic. Somebody winds up and takes a slap shot. That can knock a goalie over. And people got very excited about this. And the NHL's like, whoa, wow, look. Maybe we could be more popular. And right around that time, they decide to grant franchises to more teams. And they arrange these franchises, and this is the beginning of their abandonment of being a rebellious entity, of being the nonstop, unrelenting action, the tough guys of the NHL. I'm not saying the guys aren't tough. I'm saying that your identity as principally this, wow, that's a hockey player. I mean, that's scary. That started to end. But it was complex. It's just that those in power with money, just like the people who, threw Gibson out of Kitchener, they used it to their best advantage, okay? And what happened is that they gave these expansion teams their own division. Now, this is so ridiculous. Any other professional organization does not line up the new guys who don't have the ability yet to really, there's no history, which is fine. But then, they're not the Vegas Golden Knights this last year. They're not drafting from other teams. These teams are forming and they're clawing and scratching. Yes, they're getting a supplemental draft, but there's only so many players on 6 teams. You can't just, so the talent is highly diluted, especially with the expansion teams. And so they kind of look like they're not going to do well. So the NHL says you get an automatic playoff in the Stanley Cup final. That actually helped those expansion teams immeasurably because it brought a lot of attention to them. They got TV contracts. They got things that popular hockey teams get, and they wouldn't have gotten them if they were sweating at the bottom of, a 12-team one division. Right around that same time, we're talking about international play becoming ordinary. We're always playing Russia and Sweden and Finland, and we're playing all of those teams, and we're going to the Olympics and playing, and we're playing in tournaments like the Canada Cup, and so it's becoming where the guys are mixing with each other in a way that in Ted Lindsay's day they never would have done. They wouldn't have been able to do. They couldn't stand the sight of each other. So they're becoming more collegial. And as that collegial thing goes on, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, there's people who become highly liked. Their hockey skill is, and they make allowances for them. Anytime an extreme talent is seen in one area through that whole period, they make an exception. And that person might not last, but at the same time, it introduces something new to the sport. The WHA coming in, well, that basically said at a time the Philadelphia Flyers, and I don't buy into the Broad Street Bullies beat their way to championships. I believe that when you play as well as they did, plus you add that we're going to go out of our way, we're going to hit you every time, you're never not going to get hit, after a period about 5 or 6 years where people weren't used to getting hit that much anymore, then the WHA offered this figure skating exhibition, and who was their star, and I don't, this is tough for me, okay? I'm a hockey fan, but I'm afraid that Wayne Gretzky kind of gave birth to this whole thing, him and Bobby Orr, but Bobby Orr created a division between old-fashioned positional hockey and skating hockey, which he could keep the puck. Now, he could keep the puck in such uncanny ways. And so it wasn't that big a deviation. But Gretzky coming in, and Gretzky not really liking to check or be checked physically. I mean, check with his stick, or, nobody can get the puck off of Gretzky. And opening up the back of the net as a setup spot, coming around the net very quickly, the wraparound. How Gretzky is that? And the WHA sort of forces this into the National Hockey League. And the problem is that Gretzky is getting special treatment. Now, it's not vast. Gretzky is getting, they're setting a tone on the ice. And then if they check people, and they get checked back, everything's fine. But the problem is that anything that could endanger Wayne becomes illegal. And it's not specific. It's fine if you want to say, we want to protect Wayne, we're changing the rules. But they don't. Instead, they just have different rules for Wayne. This is never good, and it's another thing that only teenage girls go, yeah, just that one time, because they want to be loved. Is that so wrong? Well, in this case, it is. And after Gretzky comes, and he's truly a great player because he sees the whole ice, and he makes the players around him better, and he makes better also make people. He's always teaching. They're always learning. The amount of great players that come.
Even though he was a star, he was very teamwork oriented.
Oh my goodness, yes. Now, then comes, what I like to call, Mario and the NHL. Mario's coming, and, Gretzky was diminutive next to hockey players who are Mario. Okay, Mario's a big guy with an incredible reach. He had skills. He had incredible skills.
So if you're 6'4" without skates on, that makes you at least 7 feet.
Well, no, just not 6 inches
No?
of skate. Well, no.
It makes you pretty tall.
Who's told you this is 6 inches?
Dawn.
All right, I'm just sorry. As a seamstress, I have a responsibility.
Right, as a seamstress.
Now, Mario. Alright, I guess we were too serious for too long, but see, last time we did a take of this, it took a half an hour. I don't want it to take it half an hour. We're getting there, okay?
Mario, you started to say.
He makes the most of this idea that he's the next star everybody wants. He's like, oh my God, Mario's here. And they build the team around him, and they let him sort of run things. And for 2 years, he wins the Stanley Cup by what I call unprecedented cheating. I've never seen anything like it. Between the cheap shots, but mostly it's the diving. It's the enhancement. It's the go like this and you just flew into the next apartment. That's all, It's not okay to act that way. Picking fights and turtling so that you're looking like somebody else is just beating up your innocent ass. Okay, that was just so disgusting. But that's also a period of time where another breed of stars is coming through who are scoring goals at an unbelievable pace. And the rules have to change. Why do the rules have to change? Because hockey knows too much of a good thing you can OD on. And so there is a work stoppage. There's a lot of cultural things go on. And it becomes kind of a thing that players play better for players. Now, who started this? Players. So, that's like saying, I like when Dad babysits more than when Mom is here, And the truth is, that's not usually because you're getting a better experience. You're getting your terms, okay? And that's exactly what happened. Now, why wouldn't people be selfish and self-interested? I believe they should be. But when you play a team sport like hockey, you got to realize some of that's got to be, you're not going to be a true success unless you win the Stanley Cup. Now, if you try to win the Stanley Cup over and over, you'll be a great hockey player, all-time great. But you got to at least try, okay? Oliver Ekman-Larsson, this is for you. Ekholm, whatever. You signed a contract to keep you in Arizona. Are you trying? Are you taking money to lose? This is what I ask you. Are you taking money to lose? People need to try to win. I know the rich people don't like that. Oh, that explains it. Now the hockey players have money. They don't want to win anymore. They think it's bad. No, and so the league goes through all this stuff. Scotty Bowman makes a resurgence by coming up with the Detroit Red Wings right here in Detroit. Well, I'm not in Detroit. I'm around Detroit.
Metro Detroit.
Metro Detroit. And at first, I've heard Brendan Shanahan talk about this. He doesn't want to play for Bowman because Bowman seems really like obnoxious. Well, he is. He's using psychological terrorism on these players. He won't let them get away with anything. And he's, that kind of person who goes, don't look at me like that. And you go, I wasn't. And you go, yes, you were. And you're going to never, ever stop paying for this. And you're just like, if you react, you're screwed.
But this is my face.
Right. And they have to, it broke him, but it also taught him that this is how you make a team. And it's not just what he did to Brendan Shanahan, it's showing him the details of the idea that the coach will design who you are in relationship to these other people. He is the guy who will tell you whether or not you're going to be the star of the game. That's not, hockey doesn't have saviors. And I think I've said over and over, players aren't car parts. So the idea that the stars now are in on the teenage girl game, they want to be popular, they want to be loved, is that so wrong? Again, if you don't want to win, why don't you go do something where you can be loved for a whole lot easier? I don't want people on skates chasing me with sticks in their hand. I mean, come on. That seems like a stupid thing to do. And then, as a person here in Detroit, I can tell you, the Wings collapsed after the brilliant period at the end of the 90s, beginning of the century, because when Babcock came in and Mr. Ilitch died, Babcock was told that he had to listen to the players, the star players, and give them more minutes, not use his line combinations the way he wanted, and not do things that he knew as a coach were the best thing to do. So he won one, and that was it. Well, Shanahan's not hearing that. Shanahan knows what's wrong with this club. But he also knows that people looking at it to be popular, like the league wanted to be, it's not the way to go. The real rebellion, the real mayhem is on the ice. And possession hockey demands that the team be the overall goal. That whatever's happening with you, and it's lovely, nobody wants to screw with it, nobody wants you to have a bad year, but they want your great year to be the most important thing to the team first, not you. And so I really think demanding these sorts of things, and they've relaxed the facial hair rule, I didn't know how to break it to you, relaxed. He made sure he said relaxed. But I believe that right now Shanahan is looking, and when he says the quote, fix the hockey, everything else will take care of itself. This is exactly what he's talking about. Because these individuals become really caught up in the league's idea that it needs to be loved, and now these need to be loved league is being occupied by ex-players who, in a need to get back to work, convinced everybody, hey, we'd be happier if we were running the whole thing. We're letting the lunatics run the asylum in most cases. Poor Steve Eisenman got forced out of a job. That's a scuttlebutt, and I really don't see any reason not to believe it because he didn't make a bad move for his team, which is, the prima donna of all time is Erik Karlsson. I know I've talked about Drew Doughty, but gosh, he makes Drew look like a blushing little bride. Anyway, so any questions? Anything else you want to talk about? You have some great stuff.
Well, I don't know as much as you do, and you had said, did Babcock win a Stanley Cup with the Red Wings?
Yes, he did. In 2006, I believe.
And then, how long did he stay with the Red Wings before he moved on?
He left the Red Wings to come to the Maple Leafs in 2014.
Wow, he stuck with...
Well, he kept thinking, there's other ways to get what you want. Right. You know what Babcock says, it's no one to blame but yourself.
Right.
So he knew that somewhere in there had to be an answer. And the answer was, quit your job and come work for somebody who knows what they're doing.
Put your butt back again.
But okay, I don't want to get where I'm talking so nice about Brendan Shanahan that later I don't even want to put the show out, okay? But as a player, Brendan Shanahan was very much team-oriented. And I know that that wasn't the way his mind was made. His mind was made to worry about Brendan Shanahan. But his ability, even though people didn't generally like him off the ice and felt he was, you know, arrogant and big know-it-all, you know. I can't imagine what that's like, living like that. But he was always a team player. And I think that when you get back to it all, you realize that's how things go right, is that teams do them. That's why he went to the Office of Player Safety and set that up the way it is, so it can't be under Bettman. So you don't get to say, oh my God, the commissioner hates our team. Commissioner hates our team. He may or may not. I don't think he does. Honestly, I don't think he could pick the Toronto Maple Leafs out of a lineup, okay? Batman's a dipshit. It's okay, though, because he's a good businessman. When you say he took fighting out of the game, go back and read a little bit, okay? Because the early 90s violence, late 80s, early 90s violence. Oh, man, I got to show you this Stanley Cup final game with Doug Gilmour for the Flames, though he's not playing for. Anyway, some other time. All right, like, subscribe. No, I'm getting there, but I'm not as far as I was, and I got to put my introduction music in. All right, please add. Please write. I'm trying to get my website done because I'm really done with Facebook, guys. I really can't take it anymore. People there trying to protect other people from people protecting other people. Reminds me of Dylan. And Shakespeare. What is past is prologue. We are now living the past. The people will study later, so let's make it worth it. I will be back. I promise.